Your story needs more than just a protagonist moving through empty rooms. They need secondary characters. But how do you create these characters that add to your story instead of dragging it down? Characters who feel like real people with their own lives and motivations, not just props for your protagonist to bounce off of. Now, it's not about developing detailed backstories or filling out intense character sheets. That's a complete waste of time. Instead, you want to focus on what they want, what they do to get what they want, and how these two things affect your main character. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 steps to create secondary characters that your readers will love and keep them obsessed with reading your story. My name is Tim Grahl, and I'm the CEO of StoryGrid, where we have helped thousands of writers build their skills, write a book, and leave their legacy. I'm also the author of 6 books. My most recent is The Shithead, which has garnered praise from multiple New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling authors. My partner Sean Coyne is the creator and founder of StoryGrid, and he is a writer, editor, and story researcher with over 30 years of experience. And over that 30-plus year career and hundreds of books edited and published, he has had a 2.5 times greater success rate of publishing profitable titles than the entire traditional publishing industry. Everything I teach in this video is based on his expertise and research about how to write a book that will keep readers turning pages late into the night. Okay, so how do you create secondary characters for this story that aren't cardboard cutouts or all the same? We have 5 ways to do this for your book, and we'll start with the first. Give them something to want. Your protagonist isn't the only one with an object of desire. Every active character in your scenes should want something specific and be actively pursuing that thing. And not only do they want something, there has to be a constraint, something that's keeping them from getting what they want. So here's the formula we use here at StoryGrid. The character wants A without having to B. Secondary characters become real when they have this tension between what they want and what they're trying to avoid. The salesperson needs to make the sale without alienating a long-term client. The best friend wants to help without enabling destructive behavior. And the parents want to protect their child without crushing their dreams. So this naturally creates distinct voices when they speak because they're all focused on getting different things, different approaches to problems based on what matters most to them, and then natural conflict between characters when their goals clash. Here's what this looks like in practice. Let's say your protagonist needs to get into their late grandmother's house tonight to retrieve a family heirloom before the estate sale tomorrow. Look at what happens when each of the secondary characters has their own object of desire, their own thing that they want and they're actively pursuing. The realtor wants to close this estate sale quickly without losing his biggest commission of the year. The cousin wants to help search for the heirloom without revealing she already sold several pieces of grandmother's jewelry, and the aunt wants to honor her mother's final wishes without exposing old family secrets hidden in that house. Now, every conversation and action has built-in tension because each character actively pursues their own goal. They're not just there to serve the protagonist's story, they're living their own stories that happen to intersect with your protagonist's journey. This one thing creates exactly what readers crave: characters who feel distinct, authentic, and real. Notice, we don't need detailed physical descriptions, complex backstories, unique speech patterns, or quirky personality traits. We just give each character something they want and let them pursue it actively. Everything else emerges naturally from that one foundation. The key is making sure their objects of desire matter enough to drive their actions. A side character who wants coffee is less interesting than one who needs that coffee to stay awake during a crucial presentation that could save their job. So that's the first thing of these 5 steps, and it's the most important. Each of your characters have to have an object of desire that they are actively pursuing and they want throughout each of your scenes. So that's the first step. Now let's look at the second step. Let each of those secondary characters create problems. Secondary characters work best when they complicate your protagonist's journey, even when they're trying to help. Why? because conflict is what drives your stories forward. And the best conflicts come from characters actively pursuing competing objects of desire. So let's look at three ways that secondary characters can create interesting problems. The first is have different methods but the same goal. So your protagonist and their mentor both want to stop the villain, but your protagonist wants to gather more evidence first while the mentor believes immediate action is necessary. Their objects of desire have conflict. The protagonist wants to build a case without risking innocent lives, but the mentor wants to stop the villain without wasting more time. Every scene between these two crackles with tension, even though they're on the same side. So the first is different methods but same goal. The second is competing priorities. Your protagonist needs help moving apartments today before their lease expires, and their best friend promised to help, but now their child is sick. Their objects of desire clash. Protagonist wants to move out without paying another month's rent, and the friend wants to take care of their child without letting down a friend. Neither is wrong, both have valid priorities. That's what makes the conflict interesting. So let's look at the third one. Well-intentioned interference. Your protagonist is avoiding their ex after a messy breakup. Their coworker decides the two of them just need to talk it out and arranges an ambush lunch meeting. So their objects of desire create instant conflict. Protagonist wants to move on without confronting past mistakes, and the coworker wants to help fix things without respecting boundaries. The best part? All these problems emerge naturally from what each character wants. Your side characters aren't being difficult just to create conflict, they're actively pursuing what matters most to them. So the first thing is make sure that your secondary characters have something that they want, have a clear object of desire. The second thing is have them create problems. Make sure their objects of desire are in conflict with the protagonist and other main characters. The third step is show the secondary character's personality through action. So forget about lengthy character descriptions or backstory dumps. Let your side characters reveal who they are through what they do. Watch how different characters might handle the same exact situation. So we could have a character that interrupts with the solution before hearing the full problem. Another asks careful questions and takes notes. A third makes jokes to lighten the tension. And a fourth just quietly observes, waiting to see how it plays out. Each type of action tells us something about who these characters are, what they value, and how they operate in the world, especially under stress. The trick is to focus on behaviors that reveal character values, create natural conflict, move the story forward, and show rather than tell personality. For example, instead of telling us someone is impulsive, show them grabbing the map and running to the car while the others are still planning the route. Instead of describing someone as protective, show them positioning themselves between their friend and a potential threat. These actions work because they emerge from the character's object of desire, that first step. It creates immediate consequences, it forces other characters to respond, and it shows the personality through their choices and actions. Remember, every time a secondary character appears in your story, they should be actively pursuing their goal in a way that fits their personality and creates complications for the other characters in that scene. Now, before we get to step 4, I want to tell you about our scene writing checklist. This is a free resource that you can download right now at storygrid.com/checklist. And this will show you exactly what it takes to write an exciting, page-turning scene. It's the exact checklist our coaches and mentors use here at StoryGrid to analyze scenes, find out what's wrong, and help writers level up their scene writing. You can access it right now for free at storygrid.com/checklist. Okay, now let's get back to it and look at step number 4. Make every scene count. When a secondary character appears in your story, that scene needs to do more than just show them interacting. The scene should move both your global story and the personal story of that particular character forward. Here's what every scene with the secondary character needs. First, clear objects of desire. Both your protagonist and the side character should want something specific in this scene. Their desire should create immediate conflict or complications. For example, your protagonist wants to leave town tonight, and the side character needs their help with an emergency that's happening right now. The second thing is progressive complications. The scene should get progressively harder for both of the characters to get what they want. Each action they take to get what they want should make things worse, not better. Your protagonist tries to explain that they can't stay. The side character reveals the emergency involves the protagonist's sister. So the protagonist suggests calling someone else, and the side character admits they already tried that, which makes things even worse. And so now all of those objects of desire are getting more conflicted as they keep trying to fix them and get what they want. So that's the second thing, is progressive complications. The third is a story value shift. By the end of the scene, something fundamental should change. Both characters should end up in a different position than where they started, either for better or for worse than they were at the beginning of the scene. And somebody has to win the scene. One of the characters gets what they want and the other one doesn't. And so that's step 4, is to make sure every scene counts by ensuring that all of the active characters in the scene have clear objects of desire. There's progressive complications as they try to get their object of desire, and something has shifted, a value has shifted by the end of that scene. So now let's look at the 5th step for creating compelling secondary characters, and that's let them change things. Great secondary characters don't just occupy space in your story, they alter the story's direction. Their choices and actions should force your protagonist to change course, face hard truths, or make difficult decisions. This can happen in 3 different ways. First, you can raise the stakes. A side character reveals information that makes the protagonist's situation more urgent or complex. That job offer you're considering, the company is about to announce massive layoffs. The second thing is forcing choices. Their actions remove the protagonist's easy options, forcing them to make harder decisions. I already told the client you'd handle their project personally. The third is creating new problems. Their well-intentioned help opens up new complications. Don't worry, I took care of that thing with your ex, though you might want to avoid social media for a few days. The key is that these changes should emerge naturally from the secondary character's object of desire. They're not creating problems randomly, they're pursuing what matters to them in ways that affect your protagonist's journey. So those are the 5 steps to create compelling secondary characters that keep your reader engaged in your story and turning pages and wondering what happens next. So to recap, number 1, give them something to want. Make sure every single active character has a clear object of desire. Number 2, let those characters create problems for the protagonist. Number 3, show their personality through action. So don't tell them backstory, don't tell the reader who the characters are. Just have your character take actions that shows who they are. Number 4, make every scene count. Make sure every single scene, every active character has clear objects of desire. There's progressive complications and a clear story value shift by the end of that scene. And then number 5, let them change things. Your secondary characters should change the course of the story by pushing your protagonist into new places. And remember, this is the overarching thing for secondary characters. If you could remove a side character from your story without significantly changing how events unfold, that's a problem. You either need to, 1, cut the character, 2, give them stronger objects of desire to pursue, or 3, have them take more meaningful actions. Now, here's the truth about writing though. You can study character development, you can study plot structure and story theory for years, but none of it matters if you can't write compelling scenes that keep the reader turning pages. Think about it. Whether you're writing side characters or protagonists, readers experience your story one scene at a time. If those individual scenes don't keep them turning pages, they'll never discover your brilliant character arcs or exciting plot twists. This is why scene writing must be your foundation. Everything else builds on top of it, and yet, most writing courses skip right past this crucial skill. They jump straight to plot structure or character development or writing 1,000 words a day, leaving writers struggling to execute even the basics of a compelling scene. This is exactly why we created our scene writing workshop. And here's how they work. First, you'll have weekly live training and group workshopping. Each week, you'll join a live session where you learn specific techniques for writing scenes at work. You'll see examples from masterworks and get immediate answers to your questions. You'll also get one-on-one expert feedback on your writing. Your StoryGrid coach will analyze your writing each week and give you specific feedback on what's working, what isn't, and exactly how to improve. They also give you personalized custom homework so you can improve in what you need to improve in every single week. There's also daily skill building. Just like athletes need regular practice, writers need consistent opportunities to develop their craft. This isn't about generating words every day. It's about focused exercise designed to strengthen specific skills in your writing. Now, space is limited in these workshops. The last two of them has completely sold out because we give one-on-one feedback. We can only take so many students. So if you're interested in this at all, I recommend going to storygrid.com/workshop to find out more and join us for the next one. Now, if you want to keep moving with your character development, I put the next video you should watch up on the screen right now, so click that and keep going. But either way, thanks for being a writer. Thanks for being a part of our community here at StoryGrid, and I'll see you next time.